guys, and welcome to Concentrated Podcast Presents Heralds of the MCU. I'm Maria, and I am joined by my two co-hosts, Eric.
Good morning.
Eric. Oh, okay. I'm about to say, you going to say something?
I was muted.
And Manera.
Hi.
So we're here to discuss episode 8 of Disney Plus's series WandaVision, which this week was titled Previously On. The title really speaks to what the episode as a whole was about, clearing up a lot of how Wanda and us as viewers really arrived to this point in the story. As I always do before we break into all of that stuff, we're going to see, well, I'd like to see what you guys' thoughts were on this episode as a whole. So I think last week, Manira, I started with you, so I'll start with Eric this week. Eric, what did you think of this episode as a whole? I didn't start with you, Manira?
No, you're fine.
It was essentially just 40-minute flashbacks with a little bit of exposition between them, which I'm perfectly fine with. We needed it based on the first 6 or 7 episodes of the show, where we got none of that, so I'm good.
What about you, Manira?
This might be my favorite episode.
Yeah?
I thought last week was my favorite episode, but this one did Wanda justice. We framed her and we got to know Wanda. I mean, for the most part, we didn't know Wanda, and this really broke everything down in a nice, neat, rewritten version that I really enjoyed. And just
I don't even feel like it's rewritten. I feel like the seeds were there, and now those seeds have bloomed into a very powerful plant.
The seeds were there just in case if the merger didn't go through, but the merger went through, and so now that plant can flourish because it's
Bob
been
Iger
watered.
and Kevin Feige were like, well, we're gonna do this. If we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it on our own fucking terms. If they don't want to, like, if Fox doesn't want to use Scarlet Witch, we're gonna use the fuck out of her.
And they did. It's lovely.
They were like, oh yeah, cool. You guys have a cool Quicksilver running scenes a couple times in those movies that, while yes, super cool, you gave us no backstory on Quicksilver until Apocalypse, but then the rest of the movie was terrible.
Right. Yeah. So I loved it. I loved every bit of it.
Yeah, I did too. The one thing that I left this episode feeling, though, and it's kind of funny because somebody on Facebook actually said the same thing, and I was like, get out my head. I left feeling so sad. Like when you finally see this version of Wanda's backstory and everything that she's been through, it is incredibly sad. And how can you not feel horrible for this character?
I kept trying to tell y'all, don't expect a happy ending from this. I don't think
we did. I just think the sorrow and the pain, they really, really did a very good job showcasing that.
Yeah, I feel like we'll get a happy ending for some characters, not Wanda. Especially since we know that this will kind of lead into Doctor Strange too, but at the same time, like they're hit the ground running with their Disney Plus shows, because every episode has been amazing.
Yeah, and they just get better and better. Like
all they have to do is stick the landing.
Yeah, exactly. Like at no point have I watched an episode and been like, oh well, last week's was better. Like not at all. Every single episode has been better than the last. So to Eric's point, if they stick the landing going, they'll have like tremendous momentum going into Winter Soldier.
I have a question. By stick the landing, do you guys mean like end on? Because for me, sticking the landing would be ending on a cliffhanger, so that to bring people in for Doctor Strange or Spider-Man.
No, by stick the landing, I mean like give us a satisfying conclusion to this story, but also do what Marvel does best, whereas open up the world to other things. Kind of like Endgame. Endgame is my like prime example of sticking the landing when it comes to a series of movies in a shared universe. It's what Marvel has done so well over the last decade plus that DC just doesn't seem to understand.
Nope, they cannot get.
So like even if it's filled, the ending is filled with grief and pain and sorrow and Easter eggs, I'm perfectly fine with that as long as the story comes to a natural conclusion that works to both expand the characters and expand the universe, but also, satisfy us as viewers, knowing that this is a one-shot miniseries.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. I knew that should have been at the end, but he posed that question and I didn't want to forget it.
Nope, doing it now.
No. It's
we'll do it live.
Fine. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, most of this episode I think was pretty straightforward, and so the way that we normally do like the inside outside, it just is not going to work. I think that we should probably focus on the beats that are the most important, or like all of the new knowledge. And so I think that the only place to start here is kind of where we left off last week, except there was no fun theme song, which, okay.
Yeah, I was a little bummed by that. Apparently, that song has become like #1 on Spotify's soundtrack list, and we found out later in the week that it's actually sung by Agnes actress Catherine Hahn. Mm-hmm. She has a background in musical theater.
Mm-hmm.
And we also got like trap remixes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, I actually want the trap remix because that shit is fire. But I digress. Let's talk about Agatha. I just want to start by saying I was very, very happy that they got the time. I mean, it's Marvel. If they don't get the time frame right on their own characters, like what the hell? Yeah. But I appreciate it that they actually, because they could have not, right? Like they've basically changed lots of things, but they at least got the time frame right to make people understand how old Agatha actually is. Like she is old as shit. And she's been around for centuries.
Yeah, because it opens up in the 1600s, basically during the Salem witch period.
Yeah. So I think that Eric was here, and we were kind of laughing about the accent issue and the way that the English was spoken. I am willing to give Marvel a pass on not being historically accurate with accents and just cadence, because
well, it's
Disney,
not. It's
and
not
people
all
mightn't
the
understand
characters. It's just Catherine Hahn, and again, she's done the Lord's work throughout this entire series, so I'll give her a pass. Like everyone else in the thing is like, "Oh, art thou a witch?" and speaking in old English accents and shit, and she's just like, "No, not me, ma. It's not me. I'm not a witch." It's like, you know what? I'm good with it.
Was she going to Wahlburgers afterwards, Eric?
Yeah. It's like, what? I'm not a witch. What are you talking about?
Oh my gosh. So with that, let's talk about this, because this actually goes back to a conversation that we had on this podcast weeks ago, where we were trying to figure out how or why Agnes, as we knew her at the time, was in Westview. And Manira had thrown around this theory of, well, maybe she was always there and Wanda ended up coming to her. And I think that what we kind of got was almost the opposite, that when Wanda does Wanda and creates the hex, basically, it clearly drew Agatha to Westview. Or at least that's what it appears. So let's talk about it. What do you guys think is really going on with Agatha? Why is she here? Is she a friend or is she a foe? Because there were plenty of times during this episode that she didn't feel like a bad guy.
So I don't think, to that question, I don't think that she is a friend or a foe. I think that she is a student trying to learn everything she can about this magic that drew her, which is basically what she was saying at the stake. It just built the power that I got, or the spells that I had that you guys are putting me on the stake for, I mean, they just came to me, like they built to my will, and maybe if you guys taught me, this wouldn't be an issue. But because she's been kept away from literally everything, it seems like she is trying to find out everything she can about any and all magic, period, end quote. So she's just studious, basically. Yeah, that's I don't see her as
she seems like she was also drawn to Westview. But she if I remember correctly, she makes a comment about Westview being like magically imbued. There's something about Westview even before Wanda got there.
I don't remember that. I just remember her saying that all of Wanda's magic, like everything that Wanda did, drew her.
Yeah.
To Westview.
Well, she also basically gives Wanda kind of a tutorial on the basics of magic that Wanda doesn't seem to know. Because she's like, transmutation. You don't know that one. You don't know about these runes. You don't know any of that.
But she seems almost like shocked. Like
yeah,
like she's okay.
She doesn't understand the Infinity Stone part of it, but she's also like you why don't you know this? You're clearly doing it, but you don't know.
Right. Wanda is her science. Like she's had a science experiment, and she is trying to basically go through. Like she said, I have a hypothesis, but I need more information.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like somebody has natural talent, but they don't know why, and it annoys
and that's
you
what
as
I was
someone
gonna...
who has studied and it's like when you see an artist and you see someone like who went to art school and has a degree and does their job very well, but then you see like a 10-year-old who makes amazing pictures out of nothing, like no training or anything, and you just some people have that natural talent, and it can sometimes vex and annoy people who have studied and practiced.
Well, because that's what I was going to kind of touch on. I think so 2 points here. Agatha at the end, basically tells her like, you are using chaos magic, which is a different type of magic. You are, the Scarlet Witch. You can create out of nothing. Like that is magic that is not seen very often in the world of magic, right? So she gets into that, but to Eric's point at the very beginning, she is going through like Magic 101, and if you believe, whether you love comics or you don't love comics, right? Whether you love comics or you don't love comics, if you believe in witchcraft at all, the fundamentals that she is talking about, like, they're legit. Like, it's just, it's the types of things that come with it. And so it's the difference between a natural witch, I guess you would say, or somebody who comes up in the art versus a mutant. Because I think that what this really all goes back to is Wanda is a mutant. She has this magic ability. She doesn't understand it. She knows nothing about it. She doesn't know how to use it. She just does, which actually makes her incredibly dangerous because she has so much power. She doesn't know.
You wouldn't say she's a
mutant?
Really?
What?
No, I'm not one of those people who's like, mutants. We need mutants now that Disney owns Fox again. Mutants. Everything's got to be a mutant. I'm cool with them bringing them in slowly, but like, this is clearly, like they explain later when they start going through the flashbacks, that she had natural talent. Not unlike somebody like Doctor Strange, who had natural talent, obviously, but then studied his ass off and became the Sorcerer Supreme.
Okay, all right.
But she hasn't studied shit.
Exactly.
Hold on.
She had the natural talent.
Are you going to take this? Okay.
She had the natural talent, and even Agnes mentions it, that like without training or studying, or in Wanda's case, exposure to an Infinity Stone, that talent would have kind of just went away, and she would have just been kind of a little weird throughout her life.
Okay, you're wrong. Let's just go there. So a couple of points. I agree with you that I don't need everything to be mutants, and also I too want them to introduce it slowly. But I think that's exactly what they did with this, because the reality is mutant is never mentioned. They use the soft term of abilities, but the reality is you don't just have magical abilities, right? You don't. Like, because even in Doctor Strange's case, Doctor Strange's talent wasn't that he was a fucking magician or a sorcerer. He was incredibly studious, could learn things very, very quickly, and basically has an amazing brain, which then paired with magical knowledge meant that he could pick it up very quickly and better than everyone else. That is not the same as having actual magical power. He learned magical power. So with all of that said, I think that they are politely slowly introducing us into this whole idea of her being a mutant, because having magical ability, being a mutant, is why she could handle the Infinity Stone and not die like everyone else. So let's not act like it's not a thing. But to your point, Eric, I love the fact that they're not they're not like pushing it. They're not like, see, she's a mutant. That's why she could do these things. But low key, she is a mutant, and that's part of the reason that she can do these things.
Again, I disagree with the mutant thing. I feel like there are some people that just have that natural talent. And, I mean, you could say that with anything and not just magic. Because at the same time, then why doesn't every other abilities person have the same... Like, she mentions this later during the first flashback about her casting a probability hex. Because she had natural magic in her. Like, again, this is Marvel where people are, you have cosmic stuff, you have magic stuff, you have science stuff. It all exists in one place. But to just slap mutant on top of it seems kind of lazy. Whereas you could be like, oh, okay, well, certain people like Agatha.
Is she or is she not a fucking mutant? Let's just go to the card.
Yes.
Correct. So
but
her casting a probability hex as a child is not ability. That is her genetics kicking in, and they're just not calling it that, which is fine.
So that means Agatha is a mutant too?
Because
because Agatha clearly says that she doesn't know how she knows all of these things. She's learned that the spells just come to her. Does that make her a mutant as well? By your logic, she would be a mutant.
Do you want her to be a mutant, Eric? What would you like? Would you like us to say, she's a mutant?
She was in a coven of witches, but clearly she was more powerful. But taking your logic, that would mean that she is a mutant because she had more power than the other witches, and she was able to absorb their power.
She was in a coven of witches. She was born
of a
right. She is the product of a witch. She is a witch. For the way that they are playing,
so how do we know that Wanda didn't have a witch in her family down the line?
Because she's got a twin brother who's not a witch. He can just run really fucking fast. So clearly there's something going on there that's giving both of them supernatural abilities that are not the same. So by your logic, Eric, if she came of witches, her brother would be a warlock. Oh, but he's not. So yeah.
We don't know that. He got different powers by being exposed by an Infinity Stone. I'm just saying, mutant seems lazy, and I know everyone wants mutants. I love the X-Men just as much as the next guy, but I want to see where Marvel's going with this. And I could be wrong. I could be wrong next week, and next week they could be like, "Oh, mutants are a thing now." But I don't want to put everything on mutants just because.
But they are mutants.
They were
my problem.
They are mutants in a version of this, but in the DC. I'm sorry, in the Disney Marvel universe. Mutants don't exist. So I don't want to put that on there just because we have mutants now, as if they wrote this when they started writing this. They were putting everything on House of M and No More Mutants and all that stuff. I just want to see where it goes, and I don't want to keep grasping at the mutant tree.
Hold on. So if Pietro got his powers from the Infinity Stone, that means that if we're going off of seeing what Wanda saw, then he saw either himself running or whatnot. So the Mind Stone let him see himself.
No, I think what she saw is the same thing that Agnes is talking about, whereas the Scarlet Witch would be something of like a Phoenix type character, someone that is prophesized to be through magic.
Yeah, so it's similar. Like if you watched American Horror Story, the Coven season, where they were talking about the Witch Supreme. Mm-hmm. It's basically just the concept of a Witch Supreme, which I'm fine with. I guess Eric, I just want to make sure that you understand that we don't disagree in the fact that I don't want them to just be like, mutants are here and be lazy about it, but you can't say it's lazy to say that Wanda is a mutant when in the comics, in fact, she is a mutant. Well, no, again, it would be different if they were changing
that's just one continuity. And clearly based on the MCU, we haven't gotten to that point yet, and I don't want them to just force it in because they have the ability to now. If they bring it in later and they're like, "Oh, well, yeah, we also discovered that you're better at magic shit because you have the X gene."
I don't know that they would be forcing it if it's very hidden and only certain people find it.
Right. Again, it's like mutants in general, they're supposed to be the next stage in human evolution. So just for her to have it, and I don't know, you muddy the waters when you get to the mutants. I don't think
it's just her that has it.
Yeah, no. And again, if they were to start bringing in mutants, and again, I could be completely wrong, and next week that, Feige and the rest of the Marvel gang just shit on my theory, but I I'm not ready for mutants just because Wanda is historically a mutant. I don't want to put all of her powers on her being a mutant. You know what I mean?
All right, so then
especially
I have one
when
question.
they've laid the tracks for her, a lot of her powers coming from an Infinity Stone.
All right, so I just have one question for you then, Eric. How would you like to see mutants brought in? Because if you remember correctly, back in the days of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they basically brought mutants in, but didn't call them mutants, and instead
they called them Inhumans.
They called them
Basically,
Inhumans.
It made more sense with the Inhumans because the Inhumans have been here because a lot of them are broken down from Kree ancestry. They've been on Earth, and the Kree gene is in a lot of humans. They helped seed this planet, if you look back historically in the comics. So that makes sense. If they were to say, okay, well, the Kree gene has been there, even though they haven't really acknowledged it in the main MCU timeline, it's been on the shows. Like, if they were like, oh, well, the gene has been there all along, and maybe something that comes out of this with Wanda's magic and any other cosmic thing that might go along, maybe that gene activates and that becomes a mutation of the Kree gene, and then we have mutants. Because to just say that mutants have been there and in hiding all this time kind of takes away from it, because historically you have mutants that have been there for centuries. You know, Wolverine is, 200 years old. Shit like that.
But
it's difficult to try and...
No, I'm not.
I want it as much as the next person, but I want it done well, and Marvel has done well.
Because that doesn't make any sense. Of course they're hiding. Of course. We know how people persecute. We look at Hayward now with we all know how you feel about Captain Marvel, and I don't...
You mean Lieutenant Gaslight? We'll get to him because Jesus Christ with that guy.
It's I don't want, and then it'll just all of a sudden, I don't feel like it's all of a sudden. I feel like they've always been here. We've just never touched on it because we've been dealing with these certain superheroes, but we've never touched on
some have
before.
Been around, because even you can look at Nick Fury's stuff in old, where he was looking for extraordinary people. Again, I don't know. Like, this could be basically the same thing after the end of X-Men versus Avengers, where the Phoenix Force basically made a new crop of mutants throughout the world just pop up. You could have an event like that. But again, I feel like that just takes away from historically the mutants that have been here for centuries, and people like Charles Xavier that have existed, since World War II, stuff like that. There's a lot of history, and I just don't want it taken away from mutants. I want it done right. And if for somehow they were to give us, I don't want the X-Men to pop up, and I know we're going completely off topic from WandaVision. I don't want the X-Men to pop up as a movie. Don't give me just one X-Men movie and start off. I would like them to do an X-Men series the way they're doing WandaVision. Go back and give me the history of mutants and things like that.
Like I said, I don't know that they're not. Like, with Wanda slowly but surely coming to terms with the fact that I was able to do this when I was little, I feel like that could be something that we can splinter off to, that this was always a thing. They just didn't get to Wanda.
I feel like it's more based on the mystic stuff, which we know has existed for millennia. You have ageless people like Dormammu, and if we're all wrong, Mephisto next week, but people like Agnes who are hundreds of years old, and things like that. If Agnes came back and she was like, oh yeah, I have the mutant gene, but she doesn't know what to call it because she knows magic and not science, that would make a little bit more sense. But like I said,
I don't know why one has to be and the other one can't thrive.
Right.
No, because they exist together clearly, because Wanda is a mutant but also knows magic. Like, she learns it, and even getting to Agatha herself in the comics, she helps train Wanda.
Right. She ends up eventually training Wanda on
but not
how
because
to use
she's a
her
mutant,
magic.
Right.
because she knows magic and she has magical talent.
But I think that that's the whole point. You have both in this universe. You have magicians, sorcerers, warlocks that are not mutants at all, that just know magic. And then you have mutants, because Wanda is not the only mutant that's powers are based in magic or some form of magic. So you have both. It's okay to have both. And I feel like the show is bridging that. And maybe slowly giving us the other side, the non-straight magical side of the mutation or mutants in general. And I'm okay with it. I think the pace needs to be exactly what the pace is. Because again, they pretty much showed us that she had abilities before she touched the stone without, one, ever calling her a mutant, or two, ever showing that there was a connection to a coven that would explain how she had these natural abilities. So all that said, because even the thing of, oh, well, you know, if she doesn't touch the stone, it would just go away. Well, fast forward, because by the time she touches the stone, she's a young adult. So whether she is an older teenager or literally an adult, she's not a 10-year-old child.
Right.
If you go by the premise of her powers disappearing without training, use, etc., she would not have had any powers by the time she touched the Infinity Stone. So clearly there is something else there which would lend itself to a mutation.
Magic.
No, not if the magic just goes away. Remember, you said that
she mentioned that without training and whatnot, then she would never know how to use it. But that doesn't mean it goes away in your body. Like you might be, and I don't want to get all Star Warsy, but you might be connected to the Force, just like how some people are connected to the Force and can push shit with their mind. Completely different universe and whatnot. But again, I don't want to like, if you guys want it to be mutants, I'm happy for you. I don't want it to be mutants, and I'd be happy if they
I want it to be both. I don't see why it has to be one or the other.
One or the other, exactly. I think that's like where we vary.
With the writing, that they've made so much of a big deal about her touching the Infinity Stone and gaining the two of them gaining their powers from Infinity Stones, and so many other people across the MCU getting powers from Infinity Stones. I feel like to just be like, oh, mutants, kind of takes away from good writing in the past.
But we're not saying that. That's not what we're saying. We're
I
saying
know you guys
she
want it
also
to be
has
both.
the mutant gene, and she touched the Infinity Stone. So
right,
we can keep both of them in there. She can still be her powers coming from the Infinity Stone, but also there are people out there that have the mutant gene.
Yeah, no, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Again, agree to disagree. I don't want Wanda to be the first mutant or be the mutant test subject in the MCU. If they later pop it out and they're like, oh, well, you and your brother both had the mutant gene, and maybe that explains some of your extra powers, but at the same time, they're clearly working to get it where, like, oh, well, you're this prophesized being, the Scarlet Witch. Like, I want them to finish their story without leaning so hard on the mutant stuff.
Okay.
They were.
No.
Listen,
but if next week they pop out and they're like, "Oh, it's because you have a mutation," then I might be a little pissed.
I don't think we're even going to revisit that though.
Yeah.
I think that we got as much of an origin as we're going to get for now.
Yeah.
And next week is going to be the revelation of the big bad, who we still don't really know. But before we get into that, let's kind of talk a little bit more about Wanda. I know we kind of started with Agatha and then we dove into mutant or not to mutant, but I think that there was a lot more to discuss with Wanda here, specifically around the flashbacks of her backstory. One of the things that really struck me that I was hoping we would talk about a little bit is the backstory with her parents and kind of that entire beautiful scene of them getting ready to like have their movie night and then death. So
well, yeah, it explains a lot of her fixation with these sitcoms because that's what she grew up on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even so much so that she knows her favorite episode of the Dick Van Dyke Show.
I love the walnut. Sorry, I love Dick Van Dyke.
I think what I really enjoyed about how they did the flashback, and I want to touch on this for a second, and then I definitely want to move on to the flashback with Vision because oh my gosh,
Stop.
But like throughout this series, throughout the MCU, all we've seen with Wanda is the pain, and we've had very few glimpses of her having any real joy in her life. And I felt like the scene with her parents was so impactful for me because
you mean before they made her the trauma witch?
before they made her the trauma witch.
She was very happy.
She was so, and listen, they had nothing. Like, did you see that setup?
Yeah.
Their house was oof.
Yeah, that was basically a studio apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yet and still you see all of this incredible happiness and love and joy in this little family who has nothing and is making the most out of not having anything. And it was just
immigrants can relate.
Oof, you know? But it was just, I thought it was beautifully done. And we needed that because it's really easy to forget that this woman ever experienced anything happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she had her family and she had her shows. That's all she needed in life, even though she lived in a war-torn country. And we got her dad apparently was a street merchant and was hustling those DVDs. We got the reveal of all the influences that we all knew already, you know, stuff like Dick Van Dyke Show and Brady Bunch and Malcolm in the Middle. So it was nice
Who's
to
the
see
Boss
them.
was there, and I got super excited. I was like, God damn it, we could have had Who's the Boss?
I feel like some of those influences were a little bit in the 80s episode, but it went by so quick.
Mm-hmm. It did, because, you know, Disney refuses to give us a fucking hour-long show, but I'll leave that
Well,
there.
this was the longest one so far. It's like a legit,
and it still
like,
wasn't
40
long
minutes.
enough.
It
And it still
flew
wasn't
by.
long
It
enough.
was
did.
like broadcast TV hour, where it's like a 42 minutes, and then of course like 6 minutes of credits.
Yeah. And then from there, we move from the scene with her parents to, you know, obviously the training. There's not much there outside of the fact that, as we've just spent, you know, 15 minutes debating, she touched the Infinity Stone. She didn't die, ... But then we fast forward to Avengers, I guess,
HQ?
complex. Yeah, because it wasn't the tower at that point, because
No.
they were already out in the sticks. And
Yeah, it's pre-Civil War.
Yeah.
Right. And her having a conversation with Vision, who is trying to be there for her, is, you know, being a good friend. And I think the thing that killed me was his line about grief, where he's like, but what is grief if not love persevering?
Stop.
And I just like choked up, and I was like, he's so right.
Right.
He's so
yeah,
right.
God.
Yeah, well, at the same point, like, she's learning to be a person again after so much trauma, because she just lost her brother and she basically lost her whole fucking country because Ultron made it into an asteroid. But at the same time, like, Vision is also learning how to be a human and getting more and more, you know, emotional as the days go by.
I think it was very telling that she was in that place by herself. Nobody really took the time, because I mean, they can't, because they're fighting. We see them
they don't have
constantly
time
fighting. Nobody took the time to make sure that, you know, is Wanda assimilating okay? She went through trauma. Like, is she doing all right? I mean, we see that she's in training in Civil War, but for the most part, like, we don't see her, or Falcon for that matter, interacting or being taught this is how a superheroes.
Yeah.
And so I feel like,
well, at the same time, like, everyone else has a place to go. Falcon still has a home in DC. You know, Clint goes home to his family on the farm. Cap might be the only one that maybe lives there. But at the same time, Cap's doing Cap stuff. Tony's off gallivanting the world. Thor is on Asgard. Like, the Avengers aren't there. And then, of course, Rhodey is still being a professional military person. He's still in the military.
Right.
So, like, no one's really there to talk to her and see if she's doing okay.
Nat's spying.
Yeah. Nat's out spying. The only person that might be on site would be, like, Maria Hill. But she also went to go work for Stark.
Yes, at Tony's, but I mean at Nick Fury's behest. So she's spying.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Spy's gonna be spying.
Has no support. And I think that the thing that's crazy to me is that they talk about it a lot, like the PTSD that comes from being a superhero and everything that you're going through. But you're talking about it, and yet you have this woman who is experiencing it in a very real way, and no one is checking for her except for Vision.
Yeah.
I'm a little upset we didn't get more of, like, the flashbacks of her and Vision's time together. Post Civil War, pre Infinity War, like that little, you know, year or two where they truly fall in love and he gets his human form. I would like to see a bit of it.
No,
Like we
that
kind of get.
Why?
No.
I don't want to
It was-
cry
right.
anymore.
Yeah.
the love.
You need to feel things.
Him sitting there laughing at it and saying, "Well, this was funny, right?" And her saying, "Yeah, no, it is." And then that little look she gives him, that let me know that everything in Prague was very real.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of this heartbreak, very real. I didn't need to see them.
Well,
Their
towards
love
the end
story
of
in
that scene, I
Prague.
was like, "Are you gonna kiss him? Are you gonna do it? You gonna do?"
No,
dude,
she just.
No,
It looked
no.
like she was at
Yeah,
ease,
no.
and that's
Mhm.
what she needed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just like to see that little period. Just even of a quick thing of them like walking around. Where
'Cause
were they in
Eric
Scotland or
likes-
whatever?
Right.
So
What
wait a
the
second. So no, they were in Prague, and so for our viewers and listeners, my brother loves to get kicked in the emotional balls. I don't know why.
I like
He
feeling
enjoys
things.
this pain. I do not.
No.
I don't need it.
I'm a bit of a shut-in, so I like to feel my emotions through other people.
No,
Ugh.
no. See,
I'm
this
a very
scene,
empathetic person.
This scene and everything else, I was in a ball of depression,
Mhm,
anger,
mhm.
heartbreak, and just like, listen, Westview, I mean, bitch has been through a lot. You can deal. Like, you can
Mhm.
deal for mama to have a little bit of therapy, just a little bit of happiness.
Right.
Sorry.
So
Also, you
moving al-
live in a complex funded by a multi-billionaire. Like, Tony, maybe call somebody and have a therapist on site.
For
There should
yourself,
have
Tony, for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, it starts at home.
His therapy was getting back with Pepper and, knocking out a kid. Not everybody had the luxury.
Everyone
Tony.
needs therapy. Literally everyone. Everyone.
Right. No, that's where the rainbow comes up.
Mhm.
Everyone needs therapy.
Therapy.
All right, so let's talk
Talk
about
to
the therapy
someone.
that let's talk about the therapy that Wanda gave herself, i.e., creating Westview. So first and foremost, I think that her opening up the deed and driving to this plot of land that was intended for their home to be built on.
Can we
Stop,
talk about
stop,
the deed, though?
stop.
And it's one of my favorite things is the fact that when she opens it, one, there's this lovely little heart-drawn letter from Vision that says, a place to grow old in V. But on the deed, it also is written out to Wanda Maximoff and the Vision,
The
because
Vision.
I guess he hasn't picked a non-superhero name to kind of hide out and blend among people. He's just gonna be the Vision.
Ugh.
Ugh.
No,
That-
no.
Also, a little Easter egg, if you look into it, it is the same shaped heart that is on their calendar in the first episode. And we don't know why. And I believe, I have to go back and check the deed again, but I believe the deed is the same house number, as the date that was supposed to be their anniversary. I have to go back and check again.
Oh, yeah, check that, because I noticed the heart, but I did not notice the date. But let's talk about Westview. In that, as she is driving through, it is
Well,
a shithole.
I was gonna say, it
it's
might not. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt. It might not be the same number house, but at the same time, it would be their anniversary because that was the same day that she made the illusion. So that would be the date. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. But the town itself, I get that some of the residents are in pain because of the magic, but y'all should just assimilate, because the world she created for you is much nicer than your actual town.
Lovely. Lovely.
You guys want to dump on Westview? I think it's an all right town. It looks like a nice place.
Did you see that pool?
It's the fall. No one's using the pool right then.
Yes, sir. It
That's
wasn't
clearly
even
a
the
community
upkeep wasn't
pool.
there.
It seems like a decent middle class town.
No,
I
it
would live in
seems
Westview.
it seemed like a middle class town that was really nice in the 80s, but then might have
crack
fallen
came
off
through.
a little bit, right? And
Yeah.
now is just trying to get back on the come up.
Yeah.
The town itself was a mess. She gets to the property. She stands in the middle, and then she finally allows herself to just grieve. And
I don't know if that's grief or that's like, it was an explosion of power, very similar. And again, this might be linking her power to her emotions, because she had the same explosion of power when she felt Pietro die in Age of Ultron. And you saw what she did to all those Ultron bots. And this time, she used it to create stuff, but still, like, massive explosion of power.
Right, but she's
a wail
clearly,
of grief.
Yeah, it was a wail of grief, and I feel like she didn't have any control over it. But to your point, Eric, the last time we saw this from her, she was destroying, and this time she was creating. And I think that, like, seeing Vision's body, because we kind of skipped over that, seeing Vision's body, not being able to bury him, using logic and understanding why she couldn't take the body and bury him.
Can we talk about that, or do you have that listed for something later?
No. We can talk about that, because I think that's a key component in why Westview gets created.
Because fucking Captain Gaslight over there, Tyler Hayward, she goes to visit the body. He has people like not letting her in, and then he finally lets her in. He basically gaslit her to see if she could do what he wanted her to do. Because what he didn't explain to her was that, like, when she gets there, she's like, hey, I want to give him a burial. And he's like, well, not all of us have the power to bring back the dead. And you see, he puts the idea in her head, like, do I have that power? And you can also tell that earlier, a couple episodes ago, when he's like, oh, she broke in and stole his body. And he has this cleverly edited footage that we see is not edited. It's not the real thing. She opened the door just to save the guy from buzzing her in. And then she broke the glass to, he made it look like she attacked his facility and stole the body. We find out otherwise. The body is still there, which I guess we'll get to later. But he basically gaslit her to try and see if her power could bring him back, because as he mentions later, they took him apart and put him back together like a million times and couldn't figure out what powered him, because he didn't have the Infinity Stone in his head anymore.
Over his head saying, I can't feel you.
Yeah.
Shit.
Mm-hmm.
Shit. It
That's
took
another
a fucking
Easter egg.
lot for her to walk out of that building, because it took a fucking lot for me to not go, kill everyone. Everyone dies. Everyone.
Well,
right now.
I feel like she was misusing her grief again, because, like, you see, it was the same day where after she leaves there, she goes straight to Westview, and then she has that moment, that explosion of grief, similar to when she felt her brother die. Fuck
you. That was painful.
Tyler was being a real dick. He's being a real white man.
Mm-hmm. Like, what's his end game really? Because he's a human, right? Like, we don't think he's anything, right?
Well, I would say he's either a human or he's like a secret Skrull. Maybe we'll find out later. But I feel like his goal was to try to goad her into either A, using her power to bring Vision back, or B, like having an excuse to take her down and study her.
Right, but to what end? Like,
sentient weapons. He literally mentions, like, when she's like, well, I want to bury him, and he's like, well, I'm not going to let you walk out with $3 billion worth of vibranium to bury, and the most powerful sentient weapon they've ever known.
Yeah.
He wants that Tony Stark money. He want to make them bombs.
But why?
Right.
That's the thing.
The why.
Like, you're saying that maybe he's, maybe Skrull, maybe he's Kree.
Right.
Like, maybe here's the thing. We've got Monica, we've got the we've got the Captain Marvel piece.
Mm-hmm. Well, we know from the reveals that they told us back in December that we are getting a Secret Invasion show with Nick Fury, which I'm looking forward to. But I want to see how deep that goes down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, because he's definitely a shitberg.
Or he could just be a terrible person in general. Nothing super or special about him. He's just an asshole.
I think there's more. Am I reading too far into it? Does anybody
You might be. Here's the thing. I think that there is the potential for more, but also maybe not, because as we've seen through the MCU, since its inception, humans want weapons. The end. Like, the end. And so there really doesn't need to be an end game for him
Pierce
outside
in
of
Winter Soldier. He wasn't like a superhuman or an alien or anything. No, he was just a fucking dick. And he wanted, he had his own little, he was secretly Hydra, but,
But
that
for what end?
Yeah.
Weapons.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know with him. But kind of going back to it before we move on to talk about what's going on with Vision now that we know, the big reveal that she never took his body and literally just her
created
grief
him out of nothing.
Created him. Like, I I hope that people understand how huge this is. Because it lends to, we've talked about it on this show multiple times, how incredibly powerful she is, how unique her powers are to a lot of other beings that we know in the MCU. And I'm going to stick to the MCU because in the comics, Lord knows, there's people that can do there are beings that can do all types of things. But in the MCU, there is no one like Wanda. And I think
in the
that...
comics, there's a reason she's referred to as an Omega level mutant. People like Charles Xavier and, Kid Omega, they're Omega level mutants, meaning they have world-changing powers or world-ending powers.
And the fact that we're seeing this in full display for the first time, really, is insane. But what it then led a question in my mind is, she created Vision out of nothing. We now know why Vision couldn't leave the Hex, right? It makes sense. What happens with those kids that we see Agatha holding hostage at the end of the episode? Because technically she created them out of nothing. Yeah. If you follow the comics, you would know that Agatha at some point absorbs the kids, and then they're demons, and then they're not demons, and then they come back to life. There's a whole lot there. The show is not doing all of that in one episode. So what's going to happen with the kids? Will the kids also not be able to leave the Hex because Wanda created them out of nothing? It should be very, very interesting to see how this plays out.
I think that Agatha keeps giving us hints. Like, we didn't hear the kids screaming at all, and then when she needed Wanda to do what she needed her to do or go with her, it was, right, but remember I have your kids in the basement? Click, kids are screaming, mommy, mommy, mommy. Then when she needs her to come out of the house that they've built, kids, you can hear the kids screaming, mommy, mommy, mommy.
Yeah, when she gets that last little bit of like, this is the information I needed. Yeah. This is what you are.
Yeah, I foresee, I don't want to say that she's going to absorb those kids, but I don't see those kids.
I feel like she might have already. Like, she mentioned it when she talked about Pietro, who she calls Fietro as the fake Pietro. She mentions that he is basically just a possession. So she's possessing someone in the town who just happens to look like Evan Peters. And she mentions that the only reason she did that is because her brother's body is on another continent and full of holes. And I'm assuming she's the one that's casting these like evil visions of the dead people into her head, into Wanda's head. Because clearly she can get into Wanda's head. She's better at magic because she knows magic. But I feel like she may have already absorbed the kids, and the people that are like it. The way that she has them held up in the air, they seem like puppets. Yeah.
It'll be very interesting. But speaking of puppets, there's one more thing I want to talk about before we kind of get to our last minute conspiracies and wrap this up.
I believe we also have a listener.
Feedback. Awesome. Okay. Yeah. White Vision, or as I like to call him, Zombie Vision. Fun fact: I did not realize, because I haven't read a lot of Vision. I did not realize that White Vision is actually a character in the MCU. So I'm just like, oh, okay, they have now reanimated Zombie Vision. So Eric, do you want to?
That's essentially what he is. He's basically.
Okay, I was like, can you talk a little bit about White Vision and what we're seeing, because I ain't like it. I didn't like it not one bit.
Yeah, he is basically the reanimated corpse of the Vision, but with none of the memories, all of the powers, and he's basically a drone at this point. And he's been in the comics, and eventually he comes back as regular Vision. But it's similar to like the old West Coast Avengers. A lot of shit happened in West Coast Avengers in the 80s that we really don't touch on. But that's when you get the big blooming of Wanda and Scarlet Witch together. I mean, Wanda and Vision together, and their love and all of these weird stories before House of M. So, I have a feeling we're going to see... Here's my prediction, and I might be a little early for this. I feel like Wanda's version of Vision that she created out of nothing will merge with White Vision, and we'll get regular Vision back into the universe.
Yep, same. But they can't be together, though.
Yeah, they can't be together. I feel like it's not going to end well. Either that, or he's going to, as he's done many times in the comics, chastise her for what she's done, even though he doesn't understand her grief. Because multiple times he's left her in the comics. He's like, well, you did this, and you you changed the world, you took away mutants, and he's been a dick. Like we give Vision a lot of credit in the MCU because he's essentially a newborn android learning how to be a human. But in the comics, he's had plenty of time to learn to be a dick.
I don't know that we'll get Dick Vision though, because after his scene with Darcy, he kind of figures out.
I call that the name of my band.
Dick Vision?
Yep, Dick Vision.
Okay.
Oh gosh.
Copyrighted. I'll give it to you. I like after being with Darcy and finding out that she essentially killed him because she had to save the world, and then he was reanimated and rewound, and then she had to basically watch him be murdered because he was murdered by Thanos.
Yeah.
I feel like they put that in there for a reason, so that when they merge, when they break up, because they're gonna break up, it won't be Dick Vision. It'll be, we can't be together. We've gotta separate. We cannot be together, and that's gonna be real sad.
Yeah, I feel like he'll point out the things that she did based on her grief.
Yeah.
And even though it won't be him being a dick, it'll be him being extremely logical, which is what Vision is. It's going to break her heart, and I have a feeling she's going to... I don't think Agatha's going to be defeated. I feel like she's going to disappear with Agatha to go learn proper magic and how to control her powers.
I don't think that Agatha is I think that she's a student and she's trying to figure things out. So I don't see her trying to best Wanda. I think
feel like
she's trying to get
she's going to take
magic.
her away and teach her how to use the magic. And that's where we'll see in Doctor Strange, maybe that's when we'll get that House of M moment that everyone wants so bad, where like instead of, removing mutants, she might create mutants in an attempt to make her own version of a universe where her and Vision can be in love. That's just my.
What I don't want is her
end.
chasing. I don't want her chasing Vision though.
Yeah,
girl, you're powerful as shit. You don't need to chase no man.
You make a man.
Right.
You can make a man.
Make him again. Make him again. You did it once.
Made a
do it
golem
again.
of a man.
There it is. All right, guys. Well, with that, because you guys started kind of creeping into conspiracy, so before we dive any deeper into that, we've got some feedback from a listener or viewer we want to go over.
Yes.
Yeah, Manira, you got it?
I got it.
Okay.
Did you want to do it?
No. I just wasn't sure if you knew. It came in, I think, through Instagram or Facebook, one of the two.
It came in through Facebook, but because Instagram and Facebook are together.
Yeah, they're linking them now, so your messaging is all one thing.
It's
fucking get over yourself, Zuckerberg.
Wait, what? Okay, never mind. That's a conversation for another day. I don't want to deal with it. Continue.
Okay, so it's from KB.
The original Vision, Mark Zuckerberg, because we all know he's a fucking android. He's the real white Vision.
I mean, you may not be
wrong.
Okay.
First and foremost, I don't see an apology for your slander at the end of your last comment.
Well, that would have to admit wrong,
and
which he did not.
We'll let that slide. I mean, we have one more episode, so waiting on that apology. So he says, "Hello, true believers. Hi. WandaVision just blew my mind again. Same. Seeing the backstory of our favorite witch, Agatha." We see where Wanda got her love of old televisions. We do. We get to see Wanda giving birth to what I'm calling the soul of Vision in the Hex, which is fair.
Okay.
I wasn't sure they would do it, but they brought in White Vision, which is from the comics, West Coast Avengers. Eric touched on that. We get Wanda being called the Scarlet Witch because of her chaos magic use, and he's got a head blown emoji, which
that is the correct emoji in that situation. Yes,
I literally I screamed
appropriate use.
It's either head blown or like the super excited, the one with the hands on the face, like
I have a theory. Okay, theory time.
Lay it on us.
That the two Visions will fight. In order for a Vision soul to leave the Hex, he will have to merge with his body. And that is the end.
Nailed
it. Basically, I think that's the way it, listen, when we found out that there were two Visions, obviously, yes, there's.
You know what's awesome?
Yeah, you can't have two.
I didn't even read his fucking comment before we started airing. I just knew that off the top of my fucking dome.
Okay, Eric, I hate to do this to you, baby, but, you can't have two of one thing. So yeah, at some point they gotta fucking merge or one's gotta die.
Yes, you can.
It wasn't rocket
Time
science.
cop, bitch. Time cop.
You weren't.
Okay,
you weren't
then think
doing
Loopers.
anything
Nope,
Special.
Time cop.
You're not
Notice
that-
though,
you're not
hold on,
special,
but you
baby.
notice he chose to pick the time travel movie that helps his argument and for just jumps over all of the other time travel movies like Looper, where you can't have two of the same person exist in the same time.
They did exist in the same time. They were the same person. They could touch each other. They fought each other. One was just from the future. They had no difference.
Anyway, all right.
If the younger version would have died, the older version would have because they don't do both realities.
Was that
you want me
the
to get into
end
the time travel
of
shit? Because I'll do it all
KB's?
fucking day.
You are correct. It was the end of KV.
Okay,
I
all
mean,
right,
he
all
didn't
right,
finish
okay.
with a Eric's not always right, but we're just waiting for that apology. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It's coming. It better fucking come.
Like I said, I could be completely wrong about mutants and all that shit, but I think I'm right about the Vision shit.
I will give you that. I do also think
but
that,
everyone's right about the Vision shit because
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
everyone's saying.
yeah, it's not a hard one.
No.
All right. So before we wrap this up, I know that we already touched on a couple of conspiracies. Do you guys have any other conspiracies that you want to shop before next week's season or series finale?
I don't think this will be the end of Hayward.
Yeah, I feel like we're
I
going
don't
to see
either.
him in more stuff. I do also want to call out how great Catherine Hahn was in this episode. Like, she acted as a therapist, but at the same time, she called her out on the accent. She was like, oh, that accent just comes and goes, doesn't it?
I like that consistently she doesn't like kids. She didn't like kids in Parks and Rec. She hates them here. She's like, why is he so loud? Like, we're right here.
That was
and
my
it's only
favorite
a
bit.
one-room apartment.
She was
Why is
like,
he yelling?
you was a little loud bastard.
Right.
Shut up.
Manira has said it throughout. I'm gonna just jump on. She is doing the Lord's
She
work,
is.
and when this is all said and done, if she does not win an Emmy for her performance on this show, there is a problem.
I have seen the call now. Everyone is saying, based on this episode alone, that Elizabeth Olsen should be nominated for an Emmy as well. I agree. She went through the whole fucking gamut of emotions in one episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Oof, Londa, baby.
I know
I would like
that
to see
Mary
a Best
Kate.
Actress and Best Supporting Actress for the both of them.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I know that Mary Kate and Ashley made that horrible little hip hop song, dissing little baby Elizabeth back in the day. She is the most talented out of the three.
What?
Okay, so Eric, fun fact.
The only
if
song
you
I
go
know about
back-
from the Olsen twins is "Gimme Pizza."
No,
No,
there's,
okay.
There's a better one.
There's
There is no better
one.
song.
There's one, and you can actually look it up because apparently people's minds have been blown over the last couple of weeks because they didn't realize that they were sisters. I don't know where y'all have been, but
She
somebody,
literally looks like someone smashed the Olsen twins together
does.
and made one
and
person.
they made her taller,
Yeah.
right? Because she's taller than them,
And a better
so, well, and that's my point too. So apparently, when they were in the midst of their Mary Kate and Ashley run, that they had all those little movies.
Detectives.
Elizabeth was actually
Don't
the
you
baby
diss New York
sister.
Minute?
Elizabeth was actually the baby sister in one of the movies, and they did this whole hip hop rap telling her to butt out and leave them alone. And you see little Elizabeth Olsen with her little bangs, like, I just want to play with you. And they're just like dissing the fuck out of her through the whole song.
I've never.
It's also a
I'm
terrible song.
gonna have to look
As
it
an
up.
older sister, that was my jam.
You can probably just see it in her eyes, like, "Fuck you both. I'll be better than both of you. You guys did the fucking Dragon Ball Z fusion dance, and you made me, and I'm more powerful than both of you."
She is.
Not
she's
in the money
amazing, but
department,
yeah,
though.
Eric, you got to look it up. I had to show it to Jay the other day because he had never seen it.
I'm gonna Google that when we're done here.
It's hilarious. But that said, she deserves an award for sure.
Yeah.
Catherine Hahn, like, I think I would be okay with Elizabeth Olsen not getting the nod as long as Catherine did get the nod.
I would
But
like
I
to
think they
see-
both deserve it.
Yeah, I would say
You
I
know
would
what
like to see
mean?
them at least get the nominations, if not
Yeah.
at least one of them win, like
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
Golden Globe or an Emmy.
Yeah, because they. Oof.
I'm sure
Can we
Disney
just
is
keep
going to
her?
be campaigning
So good.
hard.
I want to keep her. I don't want to lose her ever. Like,
Yeah, I would like to see her, like I said, I would like her and Wanda to disappear into like one of the magic dimensions that Doctor Strange knows about and go practice magic for a year or two until Doctor Strange 2 comes out. And then we find out what they've been up to, and she's even more powerful. And have her be the legit villain of Doctor Strange 2.
but a villain that we don't lose.
Yeah.
Okay, Here's the thing though. If I can be honest, but she doesn't have to be a villain. Like,
that's fair. Yeah.
in the comics, she kind of bounces. She's not always bad.
Yeah.
So
Her intentions always start well, but at the same time, anytime you have good intentions, but you give someone magic powers, or like she's the Barry Allen of magic, where like I can fix everything with my speed, but you just fuck it up more. Sit your ass down, Barry. Talking to you, TV Barry, movie Barry, comic Barry. Sit the fuck down.
All right. Well, listen, I want more of Catherine Hahn.
Yes. Also, I hope she comes back for Spider-Verse 2. Because remember, she
well,
was
I
Doc
can
Ock
tell
in
you
that.
this. As of right now, she doesn't appear on any official casting list for Doctor Strange. She should. But
Well, I
we'll
think that
see.
would be a spoiler.
Yeah. It's probably one that they'll keep under wraps for a minute, because I mean the cast list right now is literally like 5 people, like 5 or 6 people, and it's the people you expect. The only difference is that like you've got America Chavez cast, and that's obviously huge. It's
Yeah, I would say
super
that's
huge for
true
me,
though, because
but-
they officially cast her. So yeah. I would
Yeah.
like to see, and she's another person whose one of her powers is kicking through dimensions. So I would like to see our other theory about it, Baron Mordo being involved in this, also be come true next week.
I
Or at least
too
put him
would
in, like, an
that, but I
Easter
don't
egg.
know.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
have him in like a post credits at the end of this, as to like maybe he's popping and he's like, oh, what's going on this side? And it's more
Question:
magic.
Do we think that Paul Bettany was trolling us with the "I've always wanted to work with this person," it being him working with himself?
I don't know.
Maybe.
Bettany's good about keeping his mouth shut, though.
Yeah.
Unlike other people.
Yeah.
Looking at you,
Looking
Tom
at you,
Holland.
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland does it, and like I don't know if you guys saw they revealed the Spider-Man title this week. We'll get into
Yeah,
that.
that
on
was
the
adorable.
podcast. Yeah, I thought it
Yeah.
was really funny because they were like, "Yeah, you spoil everything, Tom. Jesus."
what have I spoiled? And they're literally going down the
The
list.
last
He's like,
Everything.
Well, I didn't mean to. That was an accident. It's like, right, but you still spoiled it, baby.
His little baby English
Exactly.
voice. I didn't mean to. What are you talking about?
He's so adorable. I love him. All right. Well, guys, I think that's it. We're going into the last episode still with tons of questions. We've got some answers. We kind of want to leave with questions, right? Like if every
Good
single question
questions.
is answered at the end of this series, I'll actually be a little disappointed.
Yeah.
I want there, like we discussed at the very beginning, to be some things left over. So, we're going to wrap this up here.
I will say I was
Of course,
disappointed that
Eric.
no. I was gonna say this episode was straight up Wanda and Agatha. We didn't find out what happened to Monica. We didn't find out where Darcy is. We didn't find out anything, for the exception of like the people outside the hex in the post credit scene. Which, if you haven't watched, make sure you watch the post credit scene. We don't know where anyone else is currently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell, we don't
there's-
even know where regular like Hex Vision is.
Yeah,
So-
there's
Okay,
Go
my
ahead.
question. I know that this was supposed to be 8 episodes. Do we think that this middle episode was the insert, was the extra episode?
What do you mean? I think it was always supposed to be. I originally thought it was supposed to be 6 episodes. I don't know how they got to 9, but
I was trying to figure out where the extra information was.
you can tell there's a little bit of editing in some bits. Like maybe they're trying to edit some stuff, because Marvel's famous for that, where like they'll do some stuff like the ending of Infinity War, like not Elizabeth Olsen. Brie Larson has mentioned that like when she came in and did her cameo at the end as Captain Marvel, that really didn't connect to the movie because that part didn't happen. But like she was like, yeah, I did the scene in a room looking at ping pong balls because no one was actually there, and they threw it in at the end of Infinity War very last minute. So they have the technology to do this stuff, quick, in a hurry, and get you back in wardrobe if we want to shoot an extra scene or two. So I don't know.
All right.
I just think that there's still a lot of questions we don't have answers to, we need answers to, and
How much answers do you think we're getting next episode, though?
I just want
not
the
a lot.
answers. I want the ending to this story, but leaving it open to more. So like,
Yeah.
I want to like if it ends with Vision dying again or Vision becoming whole,
No.
but then like her and Vision having to separate. I want it to at least like we need to find out what happens to the people of Westview and the whole town as a whole. Like I need that to go back to normal. I need Hayward to get blown up or get sucked into a dimension or something.
But
Who
what
do we
if it
think Jimmy
doesn't?
Who do we think Jimmy Woo's missing person is?
Still no clue.
I don't know.
I don't.
I think it might turn out to be the guy whoever Ralph is, because again we have is Ralph the bunny that she talks to?
No, that's clearly Scratchy, but it might be Ralph.
Might be Ralph. She knows how to do the transmorphication, or I forgot what it's called.
Okay,
It's something magic.
I think it's her cat. Like in the comics, she has a cat that is like her companion that has magical abilities. I think it's the cat just as a rabbit. That's what I think. I don't think it's Ralph. Like I said, in the comics, she has a husband. We never get his name. We never actually see him. I think that was just kind of a nod to that.
I think Jimmy's like inside guy might be what's the neighbor? Herb? Yeah. Only because he's the only black person in town that we see on a regular basis.
And we keep seeing.
But he picked Herb. He like Herb was on the wall.
Oh, Herb was on the wall.
Well, he also like they never make a big deal about like I'm sure he might have seen his missing person on the thing, but there's bigger things. Like the only reason he knows about Westview is because one of his people, his informants, is there. So I feel like they're not going to make a big deal about it.
I don't feel like they would just say, I was here for a missing person, and then the missing person, like nobody remembers who that missing person was.
Well, I feel like when this is over, like he'll be like, oh, there's my guy. But like, I don't think he has a main draw. Like he was the thing that pushed the story forward, because we had to explain why Jimmy was there, because he's FBI. He wouldn't have anything to do with like Sword or Shield or anything.
But then what was his missing person doing there? Like nobody remembers him.
He was
except
no, he lives there.
Yeah,
he
lives there.
He's in witness protection. He's an informant. Yeah.
He's just checking in, which is something that the FBI would actually do.
Yeah.
And
so
he just happened to get there, and he was like, oh, this town doesn't exist according to the people outside of it.
I just think that this could also be one of the little spots where Marvel dropped the ball. Like, they can't be perfect all of the time. Every movie, every show has plot devices that don't get used properly or that end up getting dropped off somewhere. Maybe this character is one of them, because Manira, to your point, it felt like something really important in the beginning, but we have heard nothing else about this person at all.
Again, I don't
Maybe
feel like it was
just not going to come back to.
Yeah, I don't feel like it was that important. I think it was just a means to get Jimmy Woo there. Because they were like, oh, we have this character that everybody liked in the Ant-Man movie.
Manira doesn't believe you, and she's going to hold her breath waiting to see this guy.
She's still holding out for the next episode to see if that fucking desk guy from Sword shows up at Hayward's side and be like, yeah, see, I was evil the whole time.
Bitch, here's the thing. He was evil the fucking whole time, because he was like, oh, no, I can't let you in. But then with fucking Wanda, but with Monica, who works there, her mother is fucking Photon. No, oh, you would work there if your badge would work if it worked there. And no, fuck you. He's bad.
Again.
Fuck
yes,
you.
He is bad, but he's not gonna. You know what? I'm gonna go internet theory on your ass. He's Mephisto.
Stop it. We're not doing this. No. And this is where we wrap this up, guys. As always,
you can look in the picture behind him and there's a figure.
Eric, shut it.
Mephisto,
I'm going to mute you. Anyway, if you guys like this shit show of an episode, it started off so well.
For serious though, I want you, when you're doing the YouTube tag, like get the screenshot of that guy and be like, is this person Mephisto? And then like we'll get so many fucking views on that.
Do not do that.
Just put like, he's Mephisto and here's why. Click here to find out.
I want people to know that we do know our stuff. We're not just those people that Eric wants us to be. Don't do that. Please don't do that.
Clickbait's gonna
Guys, if you like this episode, please rate us, drop a review, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you can hear these or watch these two ding-dongs go at it. As Eric said, definitely like it. You can leave comments on YouTube or through the other avenues that I'm gonna give you in a second, because we look at all of them. Also, we have branched out. I've been saying this every week. This might be the last time. No, I'll say it next week again. We've branched out. We're doing a whole bunch of different things. This show is specifically for our Marvel fans, where we will be talking about all things MCU. If you're into MMA, you're in luck. We also have Throwing Bows, which might be what you're looking for. As a matter of fact, the UFC is giving us weekend after weekend of fights, so there's always something there to be heard. Also, if you want to hear three POCs talking about some British shit, right now it is, as I've said every week, Gangs of London. But you guys are getting ready to wrap Gangs of London, right? You guys are getting ready to wrap Gangs of London?
Yes, we have
we got one more episode.
Okay.
One more episode? Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
one more
remember,
episode.
8 and
Jesus.
9. One more
I swear,
episode.
I'm a part of the podcast.
You would never know, but that podcast is Cup and Saucer. You'll see a link for the playlist to that above. Lastly, you can also just send us your feedback to our email, which is just concentratedpodcast@gmail.com. You can drop us a message on our Facebook page, which is Concentrated Podcast. Or you can actually follow us on Instagram for episode drops, updates, random things that we post. Our handle on Instagram is @ConcentratedPod. And also, if you're so inclined, you can leave us a voicemail. The number is 301-531-4393. Again, that number is 301-531-4393. So, guys, that is it for this week. We'll talk to you next week. Have a great week, guys.
We'll be back for that big finale.